All right, so today we're going to go over particle systems and how they work. There's more advanced stuff in there. You can do a lot of stuff in here, so we don't have time to go over everything. We just want to go over some of the basics here. So let's take a look at how we would add a particle system to an environment. Here's an empty environment. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to say add, visual effects, effects, particle systems. You add it in. And what you see here is what's called a particle system. It's basically just exporting from a point all these planes that shoot out in every direction. By default, these planes are what are called facing, meaning that no matter what direction I look at them from, they're always going to be facing me. Those aren't cubes, those are simple planes. But you can see because the planes are overlapping their positions in 3D space, they really start to get some volume to them by just showing it that way. Now, if you have something that's transparent on there, like most particle systems do, you get some cool effects with it. So once I make a particle system, I'm going to get this whole system pop up here. And the particle system, let's just go through some of this stuff really fast. Right here, you'll see that when we put it on, it automatically has this particle effect when you have it selected. If I unselect it, it'll go away. If I select it, it comes back. I can stop, I can restart it, and then press pause or whatever I need to do. This just shows you what you're doing when you're actually adding to your particles. So that being said, we're going to go ahead and look through some of these other things over here. So duration, this is how long the particle system will run on its own. So looping, this means it's going to go over and over again. If I turn that off, it'll play once. Through the 5 seconds, you see when it stopped playing or adding new particles, that's when it stops adding new particles. So put that looping back on and restart, and it'll keep going. Pre-warm means that before it gets on scene, it's already warming. If you have a particle that you don't want it to just happen automatically on the fly, then you put it in to the particle so it's pre-done. So when you walk around the corner, it's already going. So you don't want the character to feel like it's only turning on when they're around the player. Start delay says how long once it's started or triggered, it will wait till it starts. So if you have multiple particle systems, sometimes you want the explosion to come and then the sparks to be a little bit after and then the smokes to be a little bit after that, and that's how you would do it. Start speed is how fast they go. If I change this to 10, you'll see that they shoot really fast, or 105. If I change this to 1, you'll see they go really slow. They still only live for the amount of time that we're going to talk about, but that's the lifetime part right here. Now if I change this to 20, you'll see they live longer. So they'll start here for 20 seconds, they'll keep going. This is how long the generator will start. This is how long the actual particles live. So we'll go back to 5. We change the speed to back to 10 or 5. I think it was a 5. There. 3D size, I don't even use the start 3D size. We aren't going to be using 3D particles at this point. They're expensive and we aren't going to play with them at this point. 3D start size. So I can change the size of the particles to be 0.2, so they're just little specks, or I can do like 100 or 10, and they'll be just filling in the area. Now remember, this is a picture that's sitting on top of it, so it can be done differently. It can change how they look. 3D rotation, again, it's not something I really worry about. Start rotation, okay, so if I do this and I say the start rotation's at 180, you'll see, let me do something a little bit off. Let's do 45. Now they're rotating and they're started at a different rotation point. Okay, it's not saying they're going to keep rotating. It just means they're gonna. That's where they start their position of it. That's where the starting position is. So, and then we're going to look at the flip rotation. Again, sometimes you got to play with these things to see what we get. I think that's for 3D. Let me see if I have a solution and answer for you that's better than that. Let me see. I have the manual up over here just to make sure I'm not missing anything and not telling you absolutely anything wrong. Oh, what it'll do is when I get it started spinning, it basically will flip the direction of some of the stuff. So you can, it's like 1 or 0, on or off basically. So start color, as you can imagine, is the color. So if I change this to red, if I had something on here, it would add to the material that I already have. I can also do alphas and stuff like that. Gravity, this is the one that makes sense. So if I say +1 gravity, it's going to start falling down. If I say I would just say let's say 0.5, it'll start going down slower. If I say 0.1, you'll see that it starts falling off. And if I add some life to this, to like 10, you'll see now it goes up and then it comes back down. And what you would usually do is you'd play with these kind of numbers, go like 10 for the start speed, and then change this to 5. And that way you get something that's more like the water flow going out of here. So if I stop this and play it again, you'll see it goes up and then it'll start coming down. And again, you can play with that. You can also say negative, and let me turn this down to 1, or let's say 10 again. But we'll say the start speed is 1, so it's really slow. We'll turn this to negative 0.5, and you'll see it goes up. So you can go negative gravity too, just so you understand what's going on. So simulation speed is the round speed. The entire system updates and how quickly it shoots it out. Let's see. Delta time is not going to get too heavily into the time, the crazy stuff. We'll get into some of this stuff as we go further into it, maybe, but a lot of this stuff is for you to play around with and have fun with. I have a lot of fun playing with particles. Play on awake means it automatically goes. Local scaling mode, again, is another local or non-local thing. Emitter velocity, we'll talk about that when we get to it. Max particles, stop action culling, that like that. Okay, so there's a couple other things I want to point out. There's these little arrows next to each of these options. So what we'll do is we'll change this from a constant to a curve. What a curve does, and if you click on any of those curves, you'll see when it's red, it's actually selected. You can right click down here and it'll pop up this, or you can just click in the left click and get it to show up here. So what you can do is you can have it go sometimes fast, sometimes slow. Let's do 0.25 and do some more speed of like 10. Okay. So what is the difference? Well, let's go back to when we had a constant and stop it. And let's start over. So the lifetime is always going to be 10 seconds. What I'm doing by putting a curve on it is I'm saying it's going to be anywhere from, and if I right click this, I do like to right click this to make it better. I can go from 0 seconds to 10 seconds, anywhere in the middle. And I can tell these curves to be, tangent, so they're going to be a constant, which would be straight across until it hits the next thing. Or I can say both targets should be linear, which will be just straight up and down. I can take this one and say linear, and it'll be straight down like that. So I've got all that. Now they're linear, going to pick for some of them are going to go faster and some of them are going to go slower. So maybe it's easier if I turn down the amount of particles, and we'll talk about that in a second. Actually, let's just jump in there real quick. The amount of particles is going to be 10 seconds. Let's just do 1. So we see 1 every time it calculates it out over time. It'll keep going. So with this random lifetime, it's going to be, some of them are going to go faster and some of them are going to go less. See, there's all between. You can also pick, and again, you can pick it anywhere for most of these things in here. You can go between 2 constants, which is most common way to do it. I'm going to change this back to 100 or 11. Now it's going to feel more and more random the more little details you have. So if I go like, let's say 15, so they last longer, and then I go like 5. And then I come down here and I say the start speed is going to be, we'll come back to that. We're going to keep jumping back and forth onto these things as we go so you understand. So we have that, and then we're going to come to the other ones. We can say start speed. I want some of them to be different, so I'm going to say 5 to 10. So some of them are going to come faster, and some of them are going to go slower. So it gives you, again, this more random feel. Right now, it feels like it's going in all directions because the cone is really wide. We can come back to the angle of the cone and tell it to be thinner, and then we get this, right? We probably want it a little bit more like that. We could also rotate it, and then stop and start. And as long as it hits the arc of the cone, now everything's going to start coming this way. And if I turn that cone again to a tighter angle, we'll get more like a stream. Okay, so that's that part. And again, you can keep coming here. Like start size, I would do a random between, and I'd say like 5. Let's say like 0.5. There we go. So now I got some size difference, and this is really a lot of what particle stuff is just playing with these little numbers and making them work out. Now, let's start mission is 11, so it's pretty decent. We can push this speed up a little bit. Let's try 15. Let's try 11. Let's try 12. So I got something. I'll pull back a little bit. I get like that. Okay. So now I've got this particle system going over and over and over again. And then I'm going to come down here and do some more controls over it. One thing I want to point out, if I take this and I drag it, it's going to go local. It takes the whole particle system with it. And if I change this local to world, you'll see that it now acts like it's a particle system based in the world environment. Basically, some things like when I was doing fire elementals, some of their flames, I wanted them to stick with them. But then again, I wanted them to leave a trail. So some of the things left a trail, and some of the things stayed on top of her. It was a female fire elemental. So there's your back to your shape. Again, we can change how it looks. We can actually even import in a mesh. We can do an animated mesh, which is the skin mesh renderer, which would be like the fire elemental. Okay, so velocity over time. So this is going to change how fast it goes over time. You can play with these numbers here. The things that most people like to play with is, let's put a picture in here first. So let's come down to render. This is where it defaults what it's going to use to render your stuff. And I don't think I have any particle test materials inside of here. So let me just create a new material. And I'll call this particle crap. Okay, and I'll open this up, and we're not going to do anything crazy about it. We're going to not look at emissions for right now. We do need to change this to a different type of material, so we're going to come over to particles. All right, well, it looks like I screwed up. When I was deleting zealously all the things out of this environment, so I could just show you particles by default, I deleted apparently some of the shaders too, which, happens, not a big deal. This isn't a save scene or anything. It's just something I'm playing with. So rather than just keep working in here, I want to show you what the shaders do, because that's where the magic comes in, some of the magic, and then when we start doing color and lifetime. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one and not save it, because it's just a standard environment. We'll come to the one that kind of working on in class